So that is what. So if you notice it, what do you mean by chromosome, guys? Chromosome means they are the thread-like structures which are present in the nucleus of a cell, formed by DNA, which carries the genes. Understanding? So that is what we used to call as chromosomes. But if you take a different organisms, if in humans and other animals and plants and all, so the number of chromosomes is not same in their nucleus. So different organisms is having different number of chromosomes. For example, if you take human being, so every cell of a nucleus, it is having 23 pairs of chromosomes. How many pairs of chromosomes, guys?
23 pairs of
chromosomes in the human beings. So like that, it is not constant for every organism. It will varies from one organism to another organism. So now if you take, now here as I am saying you, chromosomes means a thread-like structures which will carries the genes. Now, then what do you mean by genes? That is what it is. It is the next one. So what do you mean by gene or genes? Anybody can say? So gene is a what? It is the unit of DNA. So usually it is some kind of a structure you might be see. So it will be like this. So it's a particular unit of genes means, see, one DNA contains many number of genes. Understanding? So it is having many number of genes. I will show you the structures also. So it is having a many number of genes. So what do you mean by gene means? It is the one unit of, understanding, unit of DNA on a chromosome which governs the synthesis of one protein. Understanding, synthesis of one protein which will controls the specific character of an organism. So each gene present in the DNA will controls the one of the character, specific character of the organism. That is what we used to call as gene. So each gene is synthesis of one protein, and that protein which that controls any character or specific character of an organism. That is what we used to call as gene. So that is why we can say, so if you take every DNA, every chromosome, thousands of genes are there which will controls various characteristics of an organism. So that is why we can say genes are the actual units of heredity. Do you understand, everyone? So genes are units are called as what? Units of heredity, because every gene is having having a capacity to control one kind of variations or else traits from parents to the offsprings during reproduction. So each gene from the parent to the offsprings, it will control the specific particular characteristic or trait. So that is why we can say these genes are called as units of heredity. Understand, Kevin? Arvind? Kavya? So now if you take here, but these genes, if you notice it, these genes, they cannot work individually. They cannot work individually. So always these genes work as a pairs only. So that is also very, very important. So every genes will work in pairs in, you can see. So these genes basically we used to represent in a DNA structure. So basically the DNA structures you might be see, they used to represent with the letters. Understanding, alphabets we used to represent. So whatever the character. So can anybody say what is the characteristics, examples? Examples of characteristics, please. Tallness, yes or no? And as well as
tallness, shortness,
and as well as you can represent shortness, or else medium height, or else fairness, or wrinkled hair. Understand that was silky hair. This all we used to call as fat, thin. This all we used to call as characters. Yes or no, guys? Yeah, eye color, very good, Dina. Eye color, blue eyes, brown eyes, black eyes, like this. So this every character we used to represent with the alphabets. We used to represent with what, guys? Alphabets. And these alphabet only in DNA represents, that alphabet represents the character which it will controls, which will control by the genes. So everything, for example, if you take tallness, so tallness is represented by a capital T. So whenever you will see a capital T, then it is indicating what, guys? It is indicating what? It is indicating the tallness. Same way if we'll take dwarfness. The dwarfness means in the sense of a short people. We can say those who are not having enough height. Dwarfness we used to say. So dwarfness we used to represent with a small t. So whenever you are getting tallness, the genes which is controlling the tallness is called as capital T, which to represent. Like same way we used to represent, dwarfness is represented by small t. But as I told you, always genes will work as a single or pairs. They will work as a, how they will work, guys? They will work as always as a pairs. So that if you say the letters T and T actually represents, what they will represent are two forms of the same gene which will controls the length of the organism, and they will say a length of anything. If you take plant, it will say the length of the stem, or else if you take human beings, they will say what is the height they can grow. Like it is maximum 6 feet, 5 feet, 4 feet, it will controls by this gene only. So every gene, if you take every DNA, every chromosome, it is having thousands of genes. Every gene is having a special characters which will controls the special trait which is coming from parents to their offsprings during reproduction. So that is what you have to remember. But every gene we used to represent with these alphabets based upon their character which is going to control. But you have to, the main thing which you have to remember is, here we are using a word called as gene. So every chromosome is made up of thousands of genes. That is what DNA we are saying. But by the time of Mendel's experiments, what he has been concluded regarding this transformation of inheritance of characters from parents to the offsprings, by the time there is no discovery of genes. So instead of genes, by the time he don't know the word called as genes, he has been used a word called as factors. Understand? So Mendel's, what he has been used, guys? Mendel's conducted his experiments, and whatever the experiment he has been done, he has been used a word called as factors. Now these factors only at present, these factors are representing what? These factors are only representing the genes. Understand? So by the time there is no discovery of genes, there is no word called as genes. That is why he studied the inheritance of characters by the name called as factors, which were used by Mendeleev. And later he said that these factors only will carry the heredity information from the parents to the offsprings. Now that is why these factors we used to call as at present, what we used to call, guys? What we used to call? Genes we used to call as. Understand? So that is what do you mean by chromosomes and what do you mean by gene? Can anyone say simple definition of gene? Please. What do you mean by gene? Arya, please. What do you mean by gene? Anybody? Yes, please.
The genetic material which is transmitted from one generation to
Gene means we can say what it is. What do you mean by gene? Anyone? It is a unit of DNA.
It's a unit of DNA
Which will govern, or else which will control, say, specific characteristics of an organism. So that is what we used to call as gene. So every gene is synthesis of one protein, and it will controls a characteristic or a trait of any organism. But every DNA, if you take, every DNA, thousands of genes are there, means genes, everything, the genes are actually, that is why every gene is controls one characters. That is why we can say genes are called as what it is. They are the units of heredity, which will transfer the characteristics from parents to their offsprings during reproduction. That is what you have to remember. So please all of you write. Chromosome first. Have you understand chromosome, all of you? Yes. And as I told you, in human beings, how many chromosomes are there, guys? In human beings, how many chromosomes are there?
23 pairs of chromosomes.
23 pairs.
Chromosomes are there. So, in the 22 pairs, if you notice it, 22 pairs of chromosomes are similar, but in male and female, but 23rd chromosome is not similar. So that is what I will say. So now you can see 23 pairs of chromosomes if you'll observe in human beings, male and female. So male and female, 22 chromosomes are similar. Are you understand what I'm saying? So for example, if we'll take, this is what a 23 pairs of chromosomes. So male and female till 22, everybody is same. It is every gene, it is everything. It is having 22 chromosomes are same in every male gamete and female gamete. Only one pair of chromosomes is varies. That is what a female body is having both X and X chromosomes, understanding, and male body they are having X and Y chromosome. So this is the only one set of chromosome which will varies from male and female gametes. Do you understand, everyone? So male chromosomes, what it is having? X and Y, and as in female has two XX chromosomes. That is what you have to remember. So 22 pairs of chromosomes are similar in male and female, and only one set of chromosomes are different. In male, it is XY chromosome, and female, it is XX chromosome. So sex determination, end of this chapter, we will study sex determination. By the time you can understand what is the importance of XY and XX in the getting a new offsprings from parents to the next generation. So that is what. So totally in human beings, how many chromosomes are there? 23 chromosomes are there. In the 22 pairs are similar, and only one pair is different. In male, what is that pair, guys? In male, what is that pair? In male, that pair is XY pair chromosome, and in female, what is that? XX chromosome. That is what we have to remember that. So this is all what is chromosome and what is gene. Have you understand, everyone? Please respond. Arvind, Arya, Humaira. Now, if you'll understand this, the next one which we are going to study now, three words we studied. First one is what? Progeny. Progeny means what? Offsprings. Next one is what? Chromosomes. Next one is what? Gene. Gene over. Next, who is the drug? Dominant gene, and the next one is recessive gene. So let us take, as I told you, genes always will be individual or pairs. Genes always will be pairs only. So they cannot survive individually. So always genes will be pair. They will together work as a pair. Now let us understand, as we know, genes only controlling the same characteristics of an organism. Yes or no? So whatever the characteristics is coming from parents to the offsprings, it is controlled by genes only. Now the controlling genes, the genes which is getting the characteristics from a parent to the offsprings, they will work as a pair. Is it as? So in this pair, we can say these genes are two types. How many types, guys? These genes are two types. So based upon who is working effectively. So that is what we used to call as, one is called as dominant gene, and the second one is called as what, guys? Recessive gene. Understand? One is called as dominant gene, and the second one is called as recessive gene. So what do you mean by dominant gene? With an example, I will say. Let us, for example, take, as we know, Mendel's done experiment on which plant, guys? He has not done in organisms, any animals, only he has done in plants. That plants also which plant? He has been done?
Pea plant.
Yes or no? So why he has been selected pea plant? That is the most important question. Okay? That we will study. Why he selected pea plant only? That is one of the major important question for every board exam. So if we take the pea plant, so let me take one of the pair of a gene, that is what we used to call as TT. Understanding? Capital T and small t. This is what we used to call as one of the gene pair. So now if you notice it, here the dominant gene for the tallness is what? What is the tallness dominant gene? T, capital T is called Capital T is called as dominant gene. Understand? And small t is represent what? Small t is represent what? Recessive gene. This is what we used to call as dwarfness. Understanding? Means short or dwarfness we used to call as. Now, let us understand what do you mean by dominant gene from this TT, capital T and small t of a pea plant. You can be more clear. So if you notice it, the gene, not genes I am saying. So always gene will work as a pair. So how many gene will be together? Pair means how many? Two genes. Yes or no? So one gene plus second gene together we used to call as pair. Understand? So now a gene which decides the appearance of an organism, even in the presence of an alternative gene, is known as dominant gene. So if you want to understand this dominant gene, let me take two persons. For example, let me imagine now, this is what Dina and this is what Pranav. Now, for example, see, both are work as a team. They are a pair actually, but what they are going to do, either they are going to read or they are going to play or they are going to travel somewhere or else they want to go somewhere visit. So which is decided by without concern of Dina, Pranav only taking decision everything. He only will controls how they need to appear. For example, they want to wear pant or they want to wear a short or they want to wear any other dress, whatever the style they want to make anything. Everything is controlled by one person, even though the other person is existed as a pair. So these kind of a person who can make, who can decide the appearance of an organism is only called as dominant pair, dominant gene, we used to say. Is it clear, guys? Now hope you all understand what I'm saying. Humaira, Krutiga, please respond. So dominant gene means even though the second pair is alternative gene is present. So how the organism should appear? Either it needs to appear tall, either it needs to appear very short. Understand that short only we used to call it as dwarfness. Whatever it is, it will be decided by a single gene. That is what we used to call it as dominant gene. How many of you understand this dominant gene? Please respond. Yes. So that also we used to call it as, remember, Ali. Ali means also gene only. So gene also known as Ali. So we can say this dominant gene or we can say dominant Ali. Okay. So dominant Ali means what? Which will decide the appearance of an organism even in the presence of an alternative gene is known as dominant gene. So hope you all understand with the help of this Dina and Pranav example. Is it clear, guys? Madhumita? Now,
Yes, sir.
coming to the recessive gene, let me take the recessive gene. So if we'll take here, this dominant gene, what is happening? So one gene is dominating the second gene. So the second gene is called as recessive gene for the same characteristics on the other chromosome of the pair. So now if we'll take here the next one, so that is what we used to call as recessive gene. So now let us again imagine the both same Dina and Pranav now here. If you notice it here, so now how they should appearance here. See who is dominating here. This is Dina and this is Pranav. Who is dominating? For the appearance, how they should look, how they should appear is decided by Pranav, even the presence of Dina. So Dina does not have any importance here, what they are going to do and how they are going to appear. But here, in recessive genes, imagine, so let them take decision by Dina or Pranav, doesn't matter, but they cannot take individual decision. So without presence of Pranav, Dina cannot take any decision. Without presence of Dina, Pranav cannot proceed how they are going to do or what they are going to appear. Means that is what we used to call as recessive gene. So a gene which can decide only appearance of an organism in the presence of another identical gene means without Pranav, Dina cannot take decision, or same way, without Dina, Pranav also cannot take decision. So, if you are taking any kind of gene, understanding, if only it can take the decision, only it is having a pair of another similar identical gene. So, that kind of gene is called as, what we used to call recessive gene. Understand? So, from that, what we can say, guys, a single recessive gene cannot decide the appearance of an organism. Yes or no, guys? Please respond. So, if they want to decide appearance of an organism, how many recessive genes are required? How many recessive genes are required?
Two.
Two recessive genes are required because they cannot decide single one alone. But always genes will work as a pairs. In dominant gene, even though the second gene is present, the first gene itself, it will take the dominance. It will decide itself without concern of second one, how the organism should appear. In the second here, it is not going to be happen like that. So that is what we used to call as dominant gene and a recessive gene. And remember, a single recessive gene cannot decide the appearance of an organism. And this dominant gene always we used to represent with the capital alphabets. What is that, guys? Capital letters we used to represent. And same way, if we take recessive gene, we used to represent what? We used to represent by the small letters. Everybody should understand small letters. Now, for example, if we take pea plants only, so now pea plant is taller. So tall pea plant, if we take, so the dominant gene for the tallness is capital T, and the recessive gene for dwarfness is what, guys? Dwarfness is what? Small t. So now, how the t? If I write tt, what is the appearance, guys? Tallness or dwarfness? Anybody? Madhumita, Kimera, Dena?
Both, sir.
Both it is not possible. What I am saying, pea plant, this is the dominant and this is the dwarfness. Nitinath, I understand what I am saying. So what is the appearance? How the organism appearance here? So it is
Tall.
tall only. Do you understand? Because
Dominant.
tall is dominating gene and T is what? Small t is what? Recessive gene. Understand? So this is a dominating gene, so that the plant is appears as a tall only. Understand? So now, so for example, if we take a genetic cross of a pea plant, that is, if we take, for example, if we'll write small t and small t, so if you notice it here, both are called as what? Recessive genes. So, and this is also recessive genes. And how the plant is appears? The plant is appears dwarf plant. That is what we used to call as small plant. Understanding? So that is what. So in always the dominant gene we used to represent with a capital T, and small t is always, if you take dwarfness, it is also we used to call as recessive gene. So for every character the same thing. So the dominant gene always represented by capital letters, and small alphabets we used to represent by recessive gene. So that is what you have to remember. For example, if you cross a pea plant, suppose tall plant and as well as dwarf plants. So now again we used to get crossbreed. What we used to get? We used to get what? Small capital T and small t. So here also the next plant, the next generation which is produced by the crossing, also we used to get what, guys? We used to get what? Please respond. We used to get a tall plant only. Understanding? Tall plant only we used to get. Why? Here capital T is the dominant one. So that we used to get a capital T only in the next generation only. So after that generations only, that variation is keep on accumulating, maybe having a chances of getting dwarf plant also after the few generations. That is what we will study in the next class. So that is what, while we are crossing the tall plant and the small plant, that is a dwarf plant. So then immediate generation, we might be getting a dominant gene, but after few generations, definitely the recessive gene will come. That is all in detail we'll study in the next class. So for today's class, you have to remember what do you mean by chromosome? What do you mean by gene? And next one, types of genes, two types of genes. One is what? Dominant gene. And the second one is recessive gene. So dominant gene is always represented by capital letter and recessive gene is always represented by small letter. That is what you have to remember. In next class we'll continue what do you mean by genotypes, and as well as next one phenotypes and F1 and F2 generations. And directly tomorrow itself we'll move to the Mendeleev's pea plant experiments to give the contributions of inheritance of traits. At least we'll study tomorrow monohybrid inheritance, and later we'll continue that. So with this, I will leave today's class. Thank you, everybody. Why till here? Everybody clear with that and learn everything clear carefully. Thank you, all of you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.